world of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. It's the David Knight Show.
As the clock strikes 13, it's Wednesday, the 17th of June, year of our Lord 2026. Well, we have the Southern Poverty Law Center's Intel director has been outed as having a $1 million love affair with a Nazi. And that's only the beginning of the story. We have that story for you, as well as Kash Patel now has an assassination plot he claims was around the festival that Trump had over the weekend. I guess we could call it a festival. Still, there's $1 billion hideout and bunker, and they'll probably use this to sell that. I want to know how much of this fake ballroom is going to be paid for in taxes. How much of it is going to be paid for in bribes? I've got the numbers for you. Actually, I know what they are. Trump's secret inflation. And it's not just the oil embargo that he's created. We have the $300 billion lie, and the Zionist media is coming after Trump. No peace. We can't have peace. So again, as he's trying to run away, I guess we could say, I ran away. As he's trying to run away from Iran and the inflation, they're coming after him. And we have different stories about the agreement. What's going to happen with that? We'll be right back. Of course, we'll also be joined today with Gerald Salenti will be joining us in the second hour, trendsjournal.com. And I want to rush through this because we have got some big Harma news as well. That is, I haven't been able to talk about for the last couple of days. I've run out of time. But before I run out of time, I do want to thank the people who produce this show. And those are the people who support us with their donations. Very quickly, I've got some names. I mentioned some of those who had sent us donations by mail. I want to recognize those who have supported us via Zelle and Cash App. William Daniel W., Michael L., Lyndon H., Felipe F. By the way, Felipe wrote a note, said, you explore the political landscape like Amerigo Vespucci explored the New World. I kind of think of it more like, was it Cortez that burned the ships? Because there's no way I'm going back. There's no way anybody's going to ever hire me with a thing. I say, I'm basically burned the ships on the shore. As I'm trying to explore the truth here, but thank you for that comment. I appreciate it. Mitchell M., Ramon G., Kenneth C., Susan L., Christopher S., Jonathan M., Lloyd P., Susan L. again, Rose G., Adam D., Benjamin R., thank you very much, and Mary Moore, who does Free Minds Films, pluralfilms.com. And so I want to thank all those people who are regular supporters, most of them, and we see the same people's names over and over again. By the way, I've got like another 3 for Cash App. It won't take but a second. Francisco C., Dustin W., Dave W., American House Hippo, and Robert A. Thank you so much, all of you, for your support. I want to talk a little bit before we get into the Iran news. I want to talk a little bit about just general news, because I think there's some very important trends that are starting to happen. I talked about in Oregon, last week I talked about a bill that is, they're trying to get it on the ballot, which would basically outlaw hunting, fishing, even animal husbandry. You will not have anything, you will not kill any fish or animals. So that is in Oregon. Well, Colorado voters, some people there have tried to put up an amendment that'll do just the opposite. That'll protect hunting and fishing as a God-given right to feed yourself, of course. And it's not just a reaction to Oregon. There have been several attempts in Colorado. Matter of fact, when I was on the radio station there, they were trying to run something through that would basically outlaw animal husbandry. And I mean, there's some really radical, crazy left people in Colorado, just like in Oregon. But in Portland, Oregon, I guess we're going to stop all animal husbandry, all farming, and all fishing. I guess they're just planning on living on hallucinogenic drugs in Portland, Oregon, which they probably already do at that anyway, I guess. That's how you get this kind of stuff in Oregon. But
Because if I recall, this would also basically make farming with
Yeah.
livestock impossible.
That's right. Absolutely.
It would be the state is officially legally going vegan.
Yeah, yeah. It would classify animal breeding as sexual abuse of animals or something. It's like, no, you don't understand how that's actually done. Anyway, I need to give them a lesson.
You can really tell the minds of these weird people putting these laws in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a mass movement that is happening, a grassroots movement that is trying to shut that down and get it on the ballot. And exactly the opposite thing is happening in Colorado. Not that Colorado has come to its senses, far from it. But there are enough people there who still have their senses that they're trying to protect this because they see the handwriting on the wall. So this would constitutionally protect the right to hunt, fish, and harvest wildlife, and do it in the state constitution. This initiative would. This is a report from the New American. And they point out that, Colorado state government has, it's not just Oregon, it's not just a response to Oregon. The Colorado state government has tried many times to come after these natural rights. They said, we've reported on this in the past. They linked to articles talking about Colorado moves against fur sales, war on hunting and trapping, the God-given right to hunt. These are articles that the New American has done in the past, talking about the attacks on hunting and fishing in Colorado. So this is a response to try to stop that with a constitutional amendment. It would, quote, establish a right of the people of Colorado to hunt, fish, and harvest fish and wildlife, including by traditional methods. It would exclude, of course, going after endangered species or species that are illegal to hunt under federal law. It would also declare hunting and fishing to be the preferred means of responsibly managing fish, wildlife populations. It would not authorize trespassing on private property, nor would it limit the ability, and here's the flaw, it would not limit the ability of the Colorado Parks and Wildlife or the General Assembly to regulate hunting, fishing, and wildlife management. Well, then it is not a right. It is a privilege that can easily be taken away by a bureaucracy or by the General Assembly. Nevertheless, I think the bill is still worthwhile for people in Colorado to support. Colorado's hunting, fishing, and trapping traditions have recently come under repeated attack. In 2024, voters rejected a proposition that would have banned the hunting of mountain lions and bobcats under the emotional banner of ending trophy hunting. Evidently, there was...
You won't be able to defend yourself from mountain lions and bobcats.
There's nothing that is going to ban mountain lions from hunting you. This is the same situation you got in Japan. Lance and I have talked about this multiple times. They've even got maps showing how frequently people are being attacked by bears in Japan. They have a species of pretty aggressive bear. And because they are so restrictive on firearms, the people are at the mercy of these bears. And only a few elderly people have literally grandfathered in the permission to have a hunting license or the ability to hunt. And they're old enough they don't want to do it anymore. So they're just kind of leaving the people to be attacked by the bears, just like in the UK and France and other places, they're leaving the Frenchmen and the Englishmen to be attacked by the immigrants that they're bringing in.
And Japan does have a way to get a license to hunt them, but it's very difficult. It's a very long process, and it takes, I believe, years. And the people that have it tend to be the older generation that is now dying off and retiring, and the number of bear attacks is skyrocketing.
Yeah. So you have to be a lawyer before you can become a hunter. A lawyer and a lobbyist. 24 states, by the way, have already adopted constitutional protections for hunting and fishing. This would make the most recent one being Florida. This would make Colorado the next state, and that would get us up to 50%. And isn't it amazing that the kind of government that we have now, you have to try to put this in as a constitutionally protected right in the state constitution? Because we have a government that is a predator. We have a government that is hunting us. So hunting and fishing are not merely privileges granted by government, says the New American, but the way this is set up, it will be a privilege. because Fish and Wildlife bureaucracy and the General Assembly can take it away from you at will. But nevertheless, I still don't want to criticize and trash the thing. You should put it in. If you're in Colorado, you should vote for this. They point out that hunting and fishing are rooted in the God-given right of mankind to provide food, to practice stewardship over creation, and to responsibly use the resources entrusted to us. The Ninth Amendment recognizes that the people retain rights not specifically listed in the U.S. Constitution, while the 10th Amendment reserves undelegated powers to the states and to the people. So states should protect the right to hunt and fish while also safeguarding private property rights and public safety initiative. Of course, we all understand that. Very important that we encode that and have some way to enforce that. But here's the real threat that's coming, folks. It's very subversive and it's very under the radar in the same way that I spent a lot of time yesterday talking about what Marsha Blackburn is doing in terms of clearing the way for artificial intelligence, shutting down the 10th Amendment, pushing for digital currency, pushing for, which will be a crony capitalist version of the central bank digital currency. It'll be a CCDC instead of a CBDC. And of course, the key thing that she's pushing for, which is to criminalize anonymity on the internet. They want to know who is saying what so they can come after your free speech so that it won't be free speech. They want to make the internet a permission-based situation. And so tied in with all of that, of course, is the tokenization of our natural resources. And the New American also has an article about this. Water is becoming the next financial asset class. Well, they ask it in terms of a question. I say it is. And if you read this article, I think that's really what they're pointing out. Asset tokenization refers to the process of converting ownership rights in physical things, especially into natural assets, into digital tokens that can be traded on blockchain-based platforms. Multiple firms now specialize in tokenizing natural resources and commodity-linked assets. Some platforms are explicitly advertising the tokenization of energy, commodities, and natural resources. Others are now developing systems for tokenized water rights, water allocations, and water transfer markets. So again, just imagine you want to protect your right to hunt and fish. But of course, we can't trespass on private property. But what is that private property going to look like with tokenization? Once you start putting massive amounts of land, and especially, let's say, rivers, right? You put them on some New York Stock Exchange or something where people can buy shares in it. Now you're going to have some New York City lawyers who are going to buy these tokens, and they're going to tell you whether or not you can fish there. That's what this is going to look like. That's how they're going to get around all of this stuff. That's how they're going to try to literally starve us. They'll make fishing a trespass. And we will own token shares. I mean, it'll be BlackRock, right? Imagine BlackRock goes in. If they tokenize some of these rivers, BlackRock will go in and they'll be the largest token shareholder, right? They may not even own 50%, but they'll own enough that they can come in and shut down fishing. And don't bet that they won't do that.
They'll come after you for poaching in Lord Larry Fink's woods. It's
we'll
like
have
what
to
we've
go full Robin Hood.
Yeah, it's kind of like what I've been saying with how Larry Fink and his cronies have, been paying companies like Disney to produce stuff. It's the Larry Fink players is what they should call themselves. Well, now we are really going back to the feudalist society, and now we're going to have lords that own the woods.
Yeah, just imagine it's coming from a guy named Fink. Mad Magazine would have had a heyday with that back in the day. Anyway, in 2019, NASDAQ launched the NASDAQ California Water Index. It was designed to track water prices in California's water markets. It has now been created to support price discovery. We got to track the water market so we can put a price on it, right? Then once we put a price on it, we can put it on the blockchain and we can sell shares in it. It's going to facilitate
because it's a product everyone has to have.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, gotta have it. It's like it makes me think back to what was that Mel Brooks movie about Star Wars parody where you had Perry Air. How much longer is it going to be before we have that as well? So it's going to facilitate financial instruments that are tied to water markets. Water futures based on that index have already begun trading through the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Again, folks, this is looking very grim. This is the way these people are going to do this stuff surreptitiously, in the same way that they're going to do the central bank digital currency, but they'll do it in a way that they can also become super wealthy. It'll be a transfer of wealth, not just a destruction of freedom and dignity. Now, these people want to get rich at the same time. Critics worry that turning water into a financial asset could encourage speculation. Of course it will. And it will place essential resources under greater control of investors rather than the local communities. And again, when we look at this, when we look at the crazy, irrational stock markets, right? Stock exchange, look at what they're doing with oil. And all of the CEOs of these oil companies are saying, what is the way people are reacting to Trump's announcements on this so-called memorandum of understanding is completely unhinged from what the physical reality is. When you look at the amount of oil that is actually moving, you look at the amount of oil that has been taken out of storage and backup, and you look at this approaching shortage, which really is the gun that was held to Trump's head. And so when you look at this, it doesn't make any sense at all for the price of the oil, per barrel, the market price of it, to go down. It's actually going to go up because people are going to realize eventually that there's a shortage. But they're focused strictly on what Trump says, not on the reality of supply. And even though these people who know what the reality of supply is, even though the people who are transporting the oil, even though the people who are producing the oil know what the actual amounts are, nobody on Wall Street wants to pay any attention to that. They're completely divorced from reality. And so same thing is going to happen with the water. And they point that out here in this article. Yeah.
There's also a whole lot of states that currently have restrictions on things like collecting rainwater or having any autonomy over that. And there are even places that will try and come after you for a well because you're sucking down the water for the community that's in the ground.
Right. And I think one of those places is in the Northeast. It's like Oregon or Washington or something. I've seen reports in the past where they claim that any water that falls on your property does not belong to you. It belongs to the city, and you better not collect it or save it. And so, and that's an area is even, look at the Pacific Northwest, where they have a lot of rain. It isn't like it's a scarce resource.
Yeah, a friend in New York was saying that he wasn't allowed to collect rainwater on his property.
Really, in New York? Huh. Wow. Well, what the New American points out is the irony of the fact that these AI data centers use so much water. And right now, they're not recycling any of this stuff. I mean, after they use it, I don't know what happens with it, but they're looking at ways to recycle it, but that's not happening yet. Anyway, the bottom line is that these, and the irony of all this is that these AI data centers that are consuming so much water are going to be the basis of tracking everything with the blockchain. So it's like the same people who are consuming it are now going to be putting it under their control. When I look at this, it makes me think of intellectual property copyrights. When you look at things like movies and music and stuff like that, it's become a real key method of censorship, for example. And if you want to see an example of how copyright can be abused, just look at the personal story of Dan Fogarty, who was, I think that's his name, CCR lead man, whose songs were bought by a guy who basically tried to make it illegal for him to sing ever again. Said, no, you sound too much like yourself.
It was too much like copyrighted material he owned.
Yeah, I own the songs that sound like you, so you can't sing anymore. So, you can get the abuses that we had. Look, I understand that we should have some ability to protect your intellectual property. However, it's been taken to such absurd extremes and used for some real criminal purposes. And we're going to see the same thing happening with the tokenization of natural resources. That's the point I'm trying to make here. And again, It raises important questions, says the New American. If water rights become increasingly tradable, if wastewater becomes a source of recoverable assets, and if blockchain technology enables fractional ownership of natural resources, then future water systems may look very different from how they've looked in the past, or like they look right now. And of course they will. And you'll have to have the right to collect even rainwater on your property. It's already happened in some places. And so that is we should be concerned. Now, they mention that, well, Microsoft and Amazon and even Musk have been amenable to some of this stuff. I did not see, this is the first I've seen in terms of an update. When we moved out of the Austin area, we were living in Bastrop. And when you look at what was happening there, Elon Musk, we didn't realize it until we moved. But and right about that time, there was a lot of press about a fight between the city in terms of water and a fight with the Department of Transportation in Texas because of what Elon Musk was doing just down the road from us. He put in a SpaceX installation as well as a boring installation. And he decided that he would just dump his wastewater directly into the Colorado River right there, which was a no-no. They said, you can't do that. And he said, well, I don't care, fine me. And they did. They hit him with fines. They hit him with the maximum amount of fines. He just didn't care. He just kept doing it. And the same thing with the Department of Transportation. They said, we don't want you cutting, your turn-ins and these particular points. We want you to do it here and we want you to do it this way or whatever. He didn't care what they said. And again, he may have been right, but nevertheless, he doesn't have to worry about the fines coming from the state or coming from the city. They can hit him with the maximum amount of fines and keep doing it. And so they were even talking about, well, you need to change the maximum amount of fine. It's like, no, you don't want to bankrupt everybody. You don't want to have excessive fines for everybody else. This guy is just inordinately wealthy and powerful.
At a certain the point, the solution isn't to just let's add more and more fines and red tape. If someone is continually breaking the law, at a point it should become criminal.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, let's just shut it down. And but that didn't happen. Instead, it looks like they reached an agreement. That's what the New American is talking about. And they're talking about how they reached an agreement. Amazon reached an agreement with local people, even Microsoft in Arizona. But I want to talk a little bit about the alleged terrorist attack that supposedly happened around the Idiocracy festival that Trump did. The FBI says, actually it's Kash Patel, he said there were planned attacks and we stopped them cold. We've heard this so many times. As a matter of fact, Judge Napolitano had an excellent essay way back in the day when he was still working at Fox News. And he talked about all the many times that the FBI has instigated and planned and then stopped at the last minute a terrorist attack. So I don't believe this for a minute, by the way. Supposedly the FBI stopped alleged terror attack. It's going to attack the UFC event with drones and then drive the people into another area, which is going to be a area where were going to pre-position snipers to shoot people. I don't believe a word of this.
The people planning it, what percentage of them were not FBI agents? Were any of them not FBI agents?
That's right.
They probably got one mentally handicapped guy in a room full of FBI agents, and that's how they, quote unquote, stopped this plot.
That's right. I really think you're absolutely right. We've seen this over and over again. Seen the same playbook over and over again. And by the way, right after this, I'm going to talk about what the Southern Poverty Law Center did. And of course, they do the same thing. Southern Poverty Law Center. This $1 million tryst that their director of intelligence, quote unquote, didn't know there was any intelligence at the Southern Poverty Law Center, but we use that term loosely. Anyway, this love nest that she had, it was all about making this group whose membership had crashed from about 1,200 people to 20 people in this organization. They made it into a big thing. They boosted this organization, boosted their membership by reporting on it. But we'll get to that in a moment. I just got to say, when I look at all the people who were constantly obsessing about Donald Trump's bruised hands, oh, is he on blood thinner and all the rest of this stuff, and about his swollen ankles, and then zooming in on his legs and his pants. Is he wearing diapers? Is he wearing some kind of a device on his legs? I mean, they look at everything this guy has got, except his ear. Look at his ear. His ears, by the way, are fine. They were not shot. The ear was not shot. All of that was a lie. I'm calling it a lie. I will never believe that he was nicked in the ear with a bullet. I will never believe that. And so these people don't pay attention to the fact that his ear is absolutely perfect. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears because mine has been shot off. Yeah, you got a new one grafted on in no time at all. So multiple individuals, said Patel, are now in custody, and allegedly the planned attacks were stopped cold. And again, I think, like Lance said, we're going to find that this attack was planned and executed by the FBI with a couple of mentally retarded people. We've seen that playbook over and over again, especially because Kash Patel is one of the worst liars in a regime that is known for lying about everything. And we're going to get into all the lies about that they're telling everybody about this memorandum of understanding. And it's just an epidemic of lies. And I wonder if he's got a motivation to try to help Trump with this ballroom. Because remember, in the past, when they alleged that there was an assassination attempt, immediately Trump says, well, that means I got to have my ballroom, I've got to have a bunker. I've got to have my little hideout here. And now the White House ballroom, the price tag just keeps going up. It's now gone up to $600 million. Wait, you might say, didn't they just tell us that it was going to be $1 billion a week or so ago? Whoa, well, that was with the Secret Security and all of the other bureaucracy that they're going to have servicing it and so forth. And so that is a very different story. That is still there. No, this is the core ballroom that is there. I remember it started out at $200 million. Then it went to $300 million. Then it went to $400 million. Then it's like, okay, now we're going to jump to $1 billion and we'll have the taxpayers pay for it instead of the so-called donors. It's like an auction, right? Keeps going up. 300 million going once, going twice. I hear 400 million. We're going to bid this up. At the end of March, Trump told reporters we're donating a building that is approximately 400 million. Again, that's 2 times the original lie. Records detailing the White House ballroom construction, they're being held by the Virginia-based construction firm that's going to build it, show that in March of 2025, officials planned to derive $293 million from the private sources to fund the project, while $155 million would be pooled from Secret Service funds, $149 million be pulled from the White House military office, and $3 million from the executive residence. All right, so you total that up. That's $600 million, like the headline. And then look at the date on that. That was March of 2025 when this stuff all began. It's the same thing that this liar, Donald Trump, was doing with the reflecting pool. Everybody's talking about whether or not it looks like a reflection. Everybody's talking about whether or not it's got algae in it and all that. That's not the issue, folks. The issue is he told everybody initially it's going to be $2 million. And then they went back and they found the original contract was for what it wound up costing, which was something like 13 or 18 million or something like that. And the same thing is true of this. He's telling everybody 200 million, 300 million, 400 million. It was 600 million to start with. It was 600 million in the paperwork of March 2025. So again, he's stringing everybody along. You understand how Trump manipulates and lies to the public about everything, whether it's his reflecting pool, which reflects on him, or whether it is his grand ballroom designs. Everything starts out the same way. He comes in with a number that is a tiny fraction of what the final cost is going to be for the pool as well as for this. And he lies to people repeatedly, and then he gradually starts going up on the price. And then you go back and you find, well, in the original documents, it is more than he's even saying it is now. $600 million. Well, how does that work out? Again, $293 million of that $600 million was going to be from private sources. So it breaks down like this, folks. $600 million, not the $200 million that he told everybody to start with. And he knew at the start it was going to be $600 million. So I told everybody it's going to be a third of what it's going to be. But now that the number is there and it's 3 times larger, it's going to be 48% bribes and 52% taxes for his luxury ballroom, his luxury hideout, his luxury bunker. Trump has repeatedly, yes.
The 48% bribes are going to wind up costing the taxpayer more than the other thing in the long run.
That's right. Yeah, those 48%, good point, Lance. Those 48% bribes, as we all know, it's a pretty standard return on investment when you look at this. People get 1,000. I'm not talking about 1,000% return on investment. I'm talking about 1,000 times what they invested. Okay, so we talk about, what was that, 100,000% return on investment? Typically, people who give millions get back billions in contracts. And so, yes.
It would have been a lot cheaper for the U.S. taxpayers to pay all $600 million.
Trump has repeatedly referred to this project as a gift to the American public. But you understand that Trump has problems typing and spelling. What he really meant was it is a grift to the American public. Beware of Trump bearing gifts. It's always a grift. Corporate backers of the ballroom could also have federal contracts worth millions of dollars in revenue from the government. Yeah. No, let's talk about billions. If they're going to give millions, it will be billions. If they're going to give 300 million, they're going to get back 300 billion. I can guarantee that. So again, it's going to be 48% bribes, which are going to be 1,000 times, 1,000 fold, not percentage-wise, return on investment, and 52% taxes. Additionally, the president also requested $1 billion from Congress to upgrade ballroom security through a budget reconciliation process. So again, that we're talking about it being 52% taxes, but then there's the $1 billion that he wants for things that they're going to do that are over-the-top security because because the presidency has become so criminal, they got to worry about people trying to knock them off, other criminals trying to knock them off. I mean, it's like a mafia figure. So they've got to fortify this. Yeah.
He started out by telling us it was just the chump change, nothing of a mere 200 million. You can pay that, every day of the week and never notice. But it turns out it's 1.6 billion.
Yeah, that's right. And the chumps are the people who believe him. The chumps are the people who believe that he was going to change the way Washington works. Actually, he has changed it for the worse, much worse, setting up a lot of precedents. So again, he will likely use this alleged assassination attempt by Kash Patel to try to strong-arm this thing through. That's what he always does. Trump indicated the ballroom was going to be built with private donations, let's call it bribes, said Susan Collins, a Republican in Maine. She said, "I think that's the commitment that should be kept." Well, it's not going to be. He doesn't keep commitments, Susan. Then we get to the SPLC people, who basically have been running this same kind of game like the FBI runs for the longest time. As a matter of fact, the FBI used to hang on every word the Southern Poverty Law Center said. Now we have one of their leaders has been discovered and charged by the Department of Justice because the Trump administration will do that to the left-aligned people. They will not charge crime and corruption to the Trump family, but they will tell us about the crimes of their opponents. So we can at least be grateful for that.
And let's not forget that they were caught just a few months ago funding the opposition.
Yeah. Well, and again, this is what's happening.
Creating fake hate and racism so that they can justify their existence.
And that's a big part of the story here. That's always been a part of the story for the Southern Poverty Law Center. One of the bosses there funneled $1.2 million to her lover in a neo-Nazi group. And the pair of them even had a joint bank account. And most of all the money was that little bit over $1 million there. I think they should start selling T-shirts. SPLC, heart, Nazis.
I would say politics makes strange bedfellows, but this was pretty obvious from the get-go.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah, and if you look at a picture of the two of them, they were strange. A top Southern Poverty Law Center official is accused of helping funnel $1.2 million in donor money to an informant and the National Alliance White Supremacist Group, which is basically extinct until she started writing about it. Like I said, they'd fallen down to 20 members. Isn't that amazing?
They have to find these obscure lunatics that are as racist and hateful as themselves and fund them in order to keep this war that they are creating going.
Yeah, it's the same game the FBI does, absolutely. The Department of Justice filed a superseding indictment against the SPLC, accusing it of funneling donor cash to hate groups that they were then telling donors they were fighting. Now, the Southern Poverty Law Center has been accused of by a lot of left-wing people who look at it and say, this is not somebody you should be giving money to if you support left-wing causes, because they've stashed hundreds of millions of dollars in offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. And so even left-wing groups have been warning about how corrupt the Southern Poverty Law Center is. The one figure is referred to as Employee 2 in the indictment, is described as a person who would become director of the SPLC's intelligence project. And so based on that, people have put together who this individual is. Employee 2, therefore, is believed to be Heidi Beirich, a 58-year-old fascism expert. She's an expert on it now. But she's absolutely an expert on it after she's lived with this guy. She was director of intelligence between 2012 and 2019. The indictment alleges that she was very close to the informant known as F9. So I wonder if there's been 8 other people before him that she loved. Anyway, she and F9 shared a home with 2 bank accounts. Shared a home and 2 bank accounts. They didn't have a home with 2 bank accounts. They had one home and they had 2 bank accounts. Maybe they'll do a movie, the SPLC Who Loved Me. She was their intelligence expert here. What a corrupt joke and what a corrupt grift the SPLC has always been. Again, I played for you a week or so ago an older report that I did about a decade ago called The Prophets of Hate. They're out there always prophesying about some hate group that they imagine is out there and misattributing hatred to people. As a matter of fact, I was on their list at one point in time. But it is really about prophets, Profits. That's what they've always been about. I remember they were lionized in a film. There was some connection to it. It was back in 1988 when we had video stores. And there was a movie called Mississippi Burning. Unfortunately, it was a must-have film. Everybody wanted to see it. And it was a big-name film because it starred Gene Hackman and William Dafoe as a couple of FBI agents who were investigating the Ku Klux Klan. And Morse Dees was promoting it. I never saw the movie. I had to buy it because people wanted to see it. But I never watched it because I knew the story of all this stuff. You go back, Mississippi Burning, it wasn't the buses that were burning so much as it was the Ku Klux Klan people in Montgomery who were pulling these people as they were about to get on the buses at the bus station. They came up and started beating them, and so they had a criminal charge against them. And Morris Deese, the founder of the Southern Poverty Law Center in 1961, defended the Ku Klux Klan. And as I pointed out in the report, and I've said many times, the only involvement that Morris Deese, the founder of the founder of the Southern Poverty Law Center, the only involvement he had in the civil rights movement was to defend Ku Klux Klan members who were beating people. And he won. He got the guy off. And he was paid a lot of money. The amount of money that he was paid, if you go back and look at it in 1961, because the government has devalued our currency so much, it's not a big dollar figure. But if you look at it compared to what it bought, he was paid the equivalent of what the median family home cost at that point in time. So he was pretty well compensated for that, but not enough. And so he got out of the lawyer business and he got into a direct mail business, doing promotions by direct mail. And he was not involved in the civil rights movement at all in the next decade. So his only involvement was there at the beginning, defending the Ku Klux Klan. Then in 1971, he founded the Southern Poverty Law Center. And by that point in time, he was pretty successful in the direct mail stuff, right? He knows how to sell a story. He knows how to market himself. And so he went to the Democrats and he said, I will help you with Carter's campaign if you'll then turn over the mailing list of the Democrat Party to me. And that was the beginning of the Southern Poverty Law Center. He gets that mailing list from the Democrat National Committee, and he mines it, for people, telling them stories about Ku Klux Klan, all these hate groups, just manufacturing stuff. I mean, he was hallucinating like a chatbot. That's basically what he was. So between 2015 and 2021, approximately $140,000 in donors' money flowed from the SPLC operating account and was ultimately deposited in the joint bank accounts held by F9 and BIRIC. And this amounted to approximately 66% of all the money ever deposited into their joint bank accounts. She then used the donors' money to pay the couple's personal living expenses. While getting paid by the Southern Poverty Law Center, she made a big salary. The unnamed informant was also raising money for the National Alliance and helping to carry out its extremist activities. So there you go. They're raising money for both organizations. When one of the guys that was the chairman of the National Alliance found out, his comment was, "I knew it was that fat, ugly hog, Heidi Byrick." He said that. I'm just repeating it. He's now 78 years old. He said that to the New York Post from his home in East Tennessee. She had joined the Southern Poverty Law Center in 1999. She left in 2019 as part of a massive shakeup when many of the top brass departed over accusations of racism. No, say it ain't so. This guy begins his organization by defending the Ku Klux Klan and playing the race card about everything. But they were accused them of racism internally and of sexual harassment. She was not publicly implicated in these scandals, not publicly, but she was kicked out nevertheless. Southern Poverty Law Center has been charged with wire fraud, bank fraud, money laundering conspiracy for allegedly engaging in the active promotion of racist groups in the same time that the Southern Poverty Law Center was denouncing these same groups on its website. Again, the same game that the FBI has played for a very, very long time. And of course, the FBI and the Southern Poverty Law Center were partners in that game, during the Obama administration especially. By 2013, the National Alliance, this Nazi group, had effectively ceased to exist. Their membership had collapsed from 1,400 people to around 20 in a decade. And then she starts with this report and brings them back to life.
Yeah, it turns out when you dump tons of money on a organization, you can actually get some members.
Southern Poverty Law Center began bolstering the group's public profile, writing nearly a dozen articles about the organization. And so, it's the exact opposite effect of what you would many times think. And as I said before, she got this money that she dipped out that she and her lover lived off of. That was in addition to her salary, which was $190,000 a year. And so now it's time to face music, I guess. Then on the other hand, this is how it works if you are a genuine, principled, conservative organization, and you push back against Trump's illegal, unconstitutional, and disastrous from an economic standpoint. You push back against his tariffs. This is what happens. You basically, essentially get put out of business. That's the world in which we live in terms of politics. This is an institute called Liberty Justice Center. They lost donors because they successfully challenged the president's global tariffs, which are unconstitutional and total chaos. I mean, if people didn't understand why we don't want to have one individual set tax rates, Donald Trump is a doctoral course in that. Look at how many times he changed these things on arbitrary whims like a dictator. That's why the wisdom of the founders was to have it done by the legislative body and only by them. You can't have taxes raised and lowered on whims like Donald Trump did it. He does not have the constitutional authority to do that because they knew that's what it would look like. So this conservative nonprofit won the huge case against Trump, but then they lost donors over this. This is a Wall Street Journal report. Again, you can't be genuine, principled, and conservative, not while Trump's around. Can't oppose him on tariffs. And so they won, and she thought, well, at least I'll get some of the businesses that were going to be hurt so much by this to support me, but no. Why? Because they're all afraid of Trump. Trump, who does not fear the law, Trump does not fear the people, Trump does not fear God. He does whatever he pleases. And he is the one who is weaponizing the government against people like nobody has ever done before. And so, conservative nonprofit spent $3.5 million challenging the legality of Trump's tariffs. The gamble appeared ready to pay off when the Supreme Court signaled the White House was going to lose. So the person who was running it, ahead of it, Albrecht, reached out to some of the companies that had filed for returns, including Costco, hoping they would pitch in on the legal fight by making a donation to our organization, but to no avail. And then it got worse. She had Republican donors afraid of recriminations from Trump and from the corrupt GOP guarding our pedophiles. And so, again, tough times for them. That's the way it looks now. You got somebody, we can't have the Democrats get in. No, we got to have somebody who is going to be the backstabber of conservative principles and conservative organizations, Donald Trump. So when we come back, we're going to talk about what's going on with Iran and how he's between Iran and a hard place, so he's trying to Iran away. But we're going to look at that and see if it's going to work for him, or will the Zionist media and the state of Israel be able to preserve their war against any efforts to try to push through to a peace. Before we leave, though, alien poop evolution. What about the insects' rights in Oregon? I'm sure. We have to be able to eat the bugs, right? So we gotta allow that to happen. Absolutely. Real Octospook said their plan is to make beef life-threatening to you with alpha-gal. Yeah. They might be saving your life here. Bill Gates' vat-grown tumor cancer meat will just be fine for you to eat. Yeah, I get your point there, because he, I guess the alpha-gal stuff will extend to his tumor T-bones, but it's not a tumor. So
that's what the bug burgers are for.
That's right. Yeah, if they start to do a marketing campaign on some of this lab meat, they should have that soundbite from Kindergarten Cop from Arnold Schwarzenegger. He said, "It's not a tumor." The Front Porch Media says, "Hi, y'all. Marsha also wanted DNA at the border using the missing trafficked children. A police state tool that she might be." Yeah, I think, she absolutely is. I've never seen anybody so obsessed over a total ID for everything from everybody. She's worse, as I said before, she's worse than Hillary Clinton and Tipper Gore. She does subscribe to Hillary Clinton's "it takes a village" nanny state approach to government. But what she is doing in terms of digital ID is absolutely the most dangerous thing that we can have out there. And she is the one who's leading the charge for Trump. Trump is 100% on board with this. The Republicans are 100% on board with this. And they keep saying it's to save the children. And that's exactly, as I pointed out yesterday, what Keir Starmer is doing. And you need to understand, when Keir Starmer on one side is doing exactly the same thing. We have the Kids Online Safety Act in the U.S., and they just change the order of the words when they go to the UK, but it's exactly the same thing, and it's exactly for the same purpose: to make use of the internet by ID only, to make it by permission only, and to allow them to track any comments that are there. And so this is a global agenda, just like COVID was. Birdhouse Blue says the hunter becomes the hunted. That's right. I like what Solocat 1980 said. He said we could call it martial law. Instead of martial law, it's martial law. That's right. I have to remember that because she's going to be governor here. I can't imagine what she's going to do as governor. I know she's not going to do anything to challenge the federal government's centralization of police state powers because she's all for that. And she is absolutely against the 10th Amendment. Imagine that. A governor who doesn't like the 10th Amendment. Oh, she'll get a lot of support from Trump. CJ Prumble says, someone fed Lala this line last campaign, that wars will be fought over water in a short matter of time. Yeah. I warned people, let's see, let's move. Brian and Deb McCartney. I warned people about the water when all the survey flights were taking place. Yeah. They're having a big water meeting at a nearby town on Monday. Brownouts and blueouts. That's a good way to put it. Blueouts, yeah. So they're going to take our power and our water. That's right. Because water is power. Political power for these people. DG8, thank you for the tip. He says, David, trust me, any resistance to the war in Iran by Trump will result in more and more Epstein file releases. That's the danger of a compromised man holding office. Yeah, we'll see what's happening. And it's amazing to see how unified the media is in its opposition to Trump. And we know that it's coming from the Zionists. You know, the people, Israel hates it, and so they want to keep this war going. Benjamin Netanyahu, it's never been about the nuclear weapons, folks. It's not been about regime change either. It's about genocide. They want to do to Iran what they have done to Gaza and what they intend to do to a lot of other places where they see the people occupying the land that they claim God gave to them. And it's a false claim. There's absolutely no truth to it whatsoever. Alien poop evolution, opening your mouth in the rain will be stealing. And Brian and Deb McCartney says the recycling of these data centers is toxic. It is superheated. It will change the temperatures of bodies of water and therefore the cultures of the habitat. Microsoft is trying to dump water in Lake Anna in Virginia. That's right. And that's why I say, you know, when they are looking at this, so we had some of the same issues with some of the nuclear power plants and the cooling towers and everything, the superheated water, but it's probably even more so when you look at the data centers. And so it raises questions as to why they're putting them in areas where they don't have a lot of water. Well, I think a lot of that is because they don't have a lot of resistance in those areas, not a lot of people. S.A. Miller, 123, they're now planning to sell homes, but not the property, marketing it as affordable housing, only to control what you plant and harvest or to build on that side property. People will fall for it. You know, that kind of reminds me of Texas. So much oil was discovered in Texas that even when we had our first home was a zero lot line home, which meant that they put the house right on the property line on one side. There were no windows. It was all just a solid brick wall and a fence. And then you had, but it was still pretty private because you would have that buffer, you know, you'd have this area on the other side of your house that was kind of open. And even though the houses are very close together, nobody could see in. And so you had a private yard and that type of thing. But when we bought that house, again, we're right out of college, and we looked at it, and as part of we get to the closing, and we had to sign away any mineral rights to it. Like this teeny tiny house that has like 10 feet, the property was like 10 feet wider than the footprint of the house. And they're worried that we're going to drill for oil there. But that's what they've done in the past in Texas. And I imagine they'll do the same thing with water, stuff like that. So Solocat 1980 says, when you use your stored rainwater, it goes in the ground where it would have anyway. So how can cities claim that you are stealing it? Well, they can claim anything, can't they? I mean, they claim that people in the wrong body, they tell kids that they're in the wrong body and they can do whatever they wish to them. So again, Lance says you'll own nothing and you'll be thirsty. That's right. We'll be right back, folks.
Here's a little song I wrote. You might want to hear it in your pod. You'll own nothing and be happy. Ain't got no cash, ain't got no car, but 24 booster shots in your arm. Oh, nothing. Be happy. You can't even buy shit in the store because of your low social credit score. Oh, nothing. Be happy. You'll own nothing. And be happy. Be happy and eat the bugs.
Whether you're feeling like the blues or bluegrass, APS Radio has you covered. Check out a wide variety of channels on our app at apsradio.com.
Well, somebody has leaked the memo of understanding, purportedly. I mean, we can't be sure because the government hasn't put out the official memo of understanding, and there seems to be a misunderstanding between the two different parties there. They're all saying different things. And so there was a copy that was released by the Saudi state-owned news publication, the Al Arabiya network. They published what they said is a copy of the 14-point agreement expected to be signed on Friday between Washington and Tehran. They published it yesterday afternoon. And when you look at this memorandum of understanding, it appears that it is the Trump administration. Oh, just wake me up. I can't believe this is true. They are lying about what's in this memo of understanding. Look, I have a friend who is, his family, he's American, of course, and his family was in Panama when he was born. And so he has double citizenship, because he was born in Panama, but his parents are American. But he goes down there quite a bit, and because he spent a lot of time there in the American sector. And when Trump was making all of this noise about, the Panama Canal is owned too much by the Chinese and they've got to disinvest this and all this kind of stuff, or we're going to take it over. Well, there was, at the end of all that, a memo of understanding. What was not reported here in the U.S., my friend told me, and I've talked about it, I've mentioned it in the past, but what actually happened was the Americans, so the local newspapers there published what the memo of understanding was in Spanish. And then later, Washington published it on their site. And it turns out that if you do the translation between the English and the Spanish version, that the version that was published in Panama says one thing, and the one that's published in Washington on the federal government's website in English says something completely different. And when the local papers down there pointed that out, said, so what's going on with this? Why did they publish something that's different in English for domestic consumption? And when they published that article, nobody in the mainstream media picked it up. Instead, the federal government just quietly deleted that. You can't even find it anymore. So they've done this type of thing before. I'm not surprised at all to see that they've got their own private version of what the Memorandum of Understanding supposedly is. There's another one that is in the Farsi language. Is that what the Iranians speak? I don't know. So here's some of the salient points of this, that the Iran and the U.S. would, quote, refrain from interfering in each other's internal affairs. So I guess that means that they won't buy our Congress like Israel does, right? No, this is just referring to us not trying to overthrow their government, I guess. Again, all of these different agreements are not bilateral, they're just unilateral, just like the agreement to let Israel have all of our intelligence. They're not going to give us their intelligence either. And so Iran, I guess, could still, if they want to, with this, they're going to get $300 billion. So I guess they could use it to buy Congress. They should... Forget about the nuclear weapons. Do what the Israelis do and bribe our politicians. That's better than having a nuclear weapon, isn't it? So anyway, they're going to reach a final agreement within a maximum period of 60 days, restore traffic through the strait within a maximum of 30 days, they said, to its full capacity. The problem is that the oil companies have realistically said, and even Qatar is looking at this and said, well, we're hoping that within 1 month we can get maybe to 50% capacity, maybe 80% within 2 months. But you can completely open up the strait, but that doesn't mean that people are going to be able to transit it that quickly. And there's a lot of insurance companies as well as shipping companies. They're not really sure they want to be the first ones to try this. So upon signing the Memorandum of Understanding, the Islamic Republic of Iran will immediately take steps to ensure the movement of merchant ships is resumed within 30 days to the pre-war volume, and will try to ensure neutralization of mines within the strait. Of course, they don't know where they are. These things float around, and it's not clear how long it's going to take them to do that, to get the mines that they put out. But remember that term, ensure, okay? So Iran's duty is to ensure that the strait is open, that the mines are out of there. Meanwhile, going down to the next point, the United States undertakes, together with its regional partners, to create a comprehensive plan for the rehabilitation and the economic development of Iran, while ensuring financing of at least $300 billion. There's that same word again. So Iran is going to ensure that the strait is open. They're going to ensure that the mines are out. And so the United States needs to ensure that they're somehow going to get $300 billion. It's not an option. It's not like, well, maybe we'll do that, maybe we won't, which is the way J.D. Vance is trying to put this out. And then the fate of the enriched nuclear material will be adequately addressed in the future in some final agreement. So they didn't get anything definite about that. What is definite is the $300 billion that they're going to get. Now, the way that's going to be done, it's not clear. But the U.S. is going to ensure that it happens. And they're going to do it with their quote-unquote regional partners. You think some of that money is going to be coming from Israel? Don't count on a penny coming from Israel. They're not going to pay anything for that. It might be some of the Gulf states, but Israel, that's done so much of the damage and started the war, will not pay anything, I'm sure. So again, there's nothing about, remember we had J.D. Vance go on, and one of the things he said was, this is way different from what Obama did. They had the IAEA inspectors. There's nothing in here about IAEA inspectors coming in. He said, but we're going to have anytime, anywhere inspections. That's nowhere in here. That's not in the agreement. That's in his imagination. There's nothing about inspections at all, JD. Now, maybe this is this agreement that's been put out by the Saudi news organization. Maybe it's not the real agreement. It certainly looks genuine. And so they talk about releasing frozen or restricted funds, and the assets of Iran will be released and made fully available, et cetera, et cetera. So again, one knowledgeable source has disclosed significant amendments to the final text that would explicitly recognize the role of Iran and Oman in determining the future of maritime services in the Strait of Hormuz, and would include U.S. acceptance for the first time of Iran's right to collect fees for maritime services in the strategic waterway. So by keeping this agreement secret, because that serves their interest, it allows them to lie, it allows them to have multiple versions of this stuff. And again, there's one version of this floating around that says that the Strait of Hormuz is going to become a toll road for Iran as well as Oman. Sources said that the final stage revisions to the text placed explicit emphasis on Iranian Omani sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. The final moments of the negotiation, the text of the memorandum underwent changes that definitively and explicitly emphasized the exercise of Iran-Oman sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, said the source. They added that the previous versions of the text contained terminology intended to guarantee Iran's authority and arrangements over the strait, but that the revised wording now states that the future administration of the maritime services in the Strait of Hormuz, quote unquote, will be, quote, determined, unquote, by Iran and Oman. And so again, what do we know about this? Well, we have what the Trump administration is saying, and they are proven liars about everything. As I pointed out, the memo that they had with Panama, they had two different versions of it. The source also stated that after the 60-day period, the Islamic Republic of Iran intends to generate revenue from commercial shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz by providing safety, navigation, environmental aspects, and so forth. But they're going to see this as a revenue source that's going to be there. And this is something that's been on the table for quite some time. The bottom line is, it's not a chance that Hormuz opens, not in the way that it was before. If it opens, it'll be a toll road, most likely. So there's conflicting reports regarding this $300 billion reconstruction fund for Iran. J.D. Vance is the one who is conflicting with the released documents and with what Iran is saying. You know, Iran is a horrific regime. They've been incredibly evil in terms of the repression against dissent and that type of thing, doing the same kind of stuff that the Shah of Iran did with the assistance of the American government, arresting people, torturing them, killing them, their political opponents. And yet, when we look at it, they have been more honest than our own government in terms of what they've said. That's something to think about, isn't it? We're not investing any money, says JD. I'm sorry, that's not JD, that was Trump. He says, we're not investing any money. And listen to this. He says, I have the right to if I want to, right? In other words, if I want to give them, $300 billion, I got the right to give them $300 billion if I want to. But I'm not doing it. Now, he doesn't have that right. Just like he didn't have the right to do tariffs, just like he didn't have the right to do pretty much everything that he does. He doesn't have the right to do that. But we're not investing any money, he said. We didn't pay for it like Obama did. He paid billions of dollars. Yeah, we're going to pay. He paid 1.7. And again, where did that number come from? That's not a big round figure like 300. 1.7. Well, that was described as going back to a dispute over money that Iran had paid under the Shah for things that were never delivered, right? And you might say, yeah, but didn't we make that up to you with the Iran-Contra thing? Remember when Ronald Reagan's campaign manager, Wild Bill Casey, one of the founders of the CIA, a guy who was running very high up in the OSS, well, he was Reagan's campaign manager, and he went to Iran and said, don't release those captives until after the election, until after Reagan is sworn in. And then what they do, they said, all right, you've got these planes that we sold you, and we got money of yours already, but give us some more money, and we will give you the spare parts for those planes that you bought a while back. And then what did they do with the money? They took that money and they ran a secret, illegal war in Central America, the Contras. And then shortly after that, they started doing they invented crack cocaine, and they started selling crack cocaine to support their war. This is the American government. This is Republicans and Democrats do this kind of stuff all the time. So again, he posted then on Truth Social because he's getting so much pushback yesterday over this $300 billion. He goes, also, this story that the U.S. is paying Iran $300 million is fake news. Yeah, it is fake news because it's $300 billion. It's 1,000 times more than that. And then because he gets that wrong, and then in the same sentence he said, that's put out by the Democrats. D-U-M-O-crats, right? This guy is so stupid and dumb, he doesn't know how to spell dumb. He doesn't know the difference or care between millions and billions because he's a spoiled rich kid. And he doesn't even know how to spell dumb. He's so stupid. So this is Donald Trump, but he does lie. He does lie well. He does one good thing well, and that is to lie well. Israel has been among the most vocal critics of the deal. Bezalel Smotrich having called the MOU bad for Israel and for the entire free world and pledging to continue efforts to topple Iran's regime. They want a genocide. No question about it. We're going to take a quick break because we now have Gerald Slenti, and I want to get his comments right away. So we'll take a quick break, folks, and we will be right back. Stay with us.
You're listening to The David Knight Show.
Tell Alexa to add the APS radio skill and have access to the best channels anywhere. From country to blues, classic hits to news, APS Radio curates incredibly diverse playlists for you to enjoy. Get details at apsradio.com.
Well, joining us now is Gerald Celente of trendsjournal.com. He has been spot on in terms of his predictions of trends and seeing what was going to happen, predicting not just stagflation in the 1970s, but dragflation. But I guess even Gerald didn't think that Trump would be stupid enough to shut down the Strait of Hormuz and recreate something that's even worse than the 1973 OPEC oil embargo. But we're going to talk to Gerald. I want to get his take on whether or not this agreement is going to last. If it does last, will the oil flow? Will we have a return to the status quo ante, or is this something that is going to be the new normal? Because that's basically what happened in 1973. Prices quadrupled and they stayed there and then built upon that. And then what happens to the economy? What happens to gold? All these questions that we've got about this. And I've been anxious to have Gerald Celente on. Thank you for joining us, Gerald.
No, thank you for having me on, and thank you for all that you do. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
March 3rd, Trump was asked about Rubio saying that the U.S. attacked Iran because Israel would have attacked first, prompting Iran to strike U.S. targets in region. Trump said, no, I might have forced their hand. You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. I felt strongly about that. And based on the way the negotiations are going, I think they were going to attack first. And I didn't want that to happen. So, if anything, I might have forced Israel's hands. But Israel was ready, and we're ready, and we had a very powerful impact. Ready? Because virtually everything they have has been knocked out. That was March 3rd.
Yeah.
2 days after the war.
And of course, we saw that all that was a lie. They keep
lie.
saying that they have knocked everything they got out. We destroyed their Navy. Yeah, you got like 7 ships. Was that their entire Navy? But they still have all the drones and the missiles. And there's not a thing about that in this memorandum of understanding. He's running away, and rightfully so. I'm glad to see that he's running away. And, Rand Paul has said, well, we don't want to criticize him too much because we don't want to have him change course. So people are really pouring the criticism on him. Are people on Fox News and elsewhere that are completely owned by Israel. And they are really pouring the scorn on Trump. Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, people of that ilk.
I'm mentioning this also because, again, he said, you see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. And that's why we attacked them.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with the BS that they were going to make nuclear bombs.
That's right. That's right.
Just want to make that clear.
That's right.
And number two, even according to the United States intelligence and all of the other data, and we only could put the data out, Iran was not making nuclear weapons.
That's right. Yeah. The IAEA agreed to that. And when you're talking about they were going to attack us, as Marco Rubio said, they're going to attack us if Israel attacks them. They will attack our bases. So we'll join in with Israel. That's the rationale that Rubio was saying. There was absolutely no rationale for Iran to attack the United States preemptively, especially because they were doing a negotiation. All of it was an improbable lie. It's just like I just talked about how Trump said, all this stuff about $300 million. No, it's $300 billion. He says, that's all just a lie put out by the Democrats, and he can't spell dumb. He's so stupid.
Yep. No, this is serious. This is, here. The deal is that Israel will not withdraw from Lebanon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They will keep stealing land in the West Bank and keep slaughtering and stealing more land in Gaza.
That's right. And they've made it very clear they have no intention of honoring any. So we're not a part of this agreement and everything. Everybody else says, and the agreement says, that they will stop attacking Lebanon. So if they say, we're not a part of this agreement and we're not going to stop attacking Lebanon or anybody else that we want to, I don't see this agreement lasting.
Several injured in Israeli strike on southern Lebanon. This just came out before we went on the air. All right?
Yeah.
They're not going to stop.
Nope.
And
just like they're not going to stop with Gaza either, ever.
No. And so there's not going to be a peace deal. This is not going to go anywhere. Trump came out today. This just came out. He said that, quote, it's a memorandum of understanding. And if I don't like it, we'll go back to shooting at them, dropping bombs on their head.
He's an idiot. He's a dangerous
how
idiot.
Evil it is to say something like that.
Yes, I know.
We'll be dropping bombs on their head. Heil Hitler?
Yeah.
Imagine, oh my God. Could you imagine if Putin said this?
That's right.
Could you imagine if Putin said, yeah, we got a deal going on with Ukraine, and if I don't like it, we'll go back to shooting at them and dropping bombs on their head. Oh my God. Oh my God. We have to do something to destroy Russia. They got a crazy guy there. That's the crap they would be shoving down our throat if anybody else said that. But no, not a word. Shut the hell up, Salenti.
That's right. And then you got Herr Hegseth, the literal Nazi who is out there boasting about the people that he kills, civilians that he kills, people that he kills who have been shipwrecked in the water. It's just amazing to me to see this. And as you point out, any other country did that, everybody would have a fit. And quite frankly, they are having a fit privately over America. We are becoming a pariah state and have become a pariah state in the eyes of everybody in the world, just like Israel, because we have taken their so-called ethics, which are no ethics at all. We have taken their approach to dealing with people, assassinations, sneak attacks, while you come in and say, well, we're going to negotiate with these people. While you're at the negotiating table, you do a sneak attack on their country. These are Israeli tactics, and it's pretty clear that the Israelis have taken over our politicians.
Yep.
I was talking about the memorandum of understanding, and part of it was that countries will not interfere in each other's domestic affairs. And I said, well, does that mean that Iran's not going to use the $300 billion that they get to buy our Congress like Israel does? It's just insane. What do you think about this thing that broke last week? We didn't talk last week, but this thing about merging the U.S. military with the IDF. And then even worse, the fact Tom Cotton has come up with this bill that would merge, not merge the intelligence agencies, but it would subordinate us to them. They did it on the 59th anniversary of the attack on the USS Liberty, which was an NSA ship. And under this Tom Cotton thing, you would have an obligation of the president to give all intelligence to Israel. And if he didn't give that to them, then he would have to go to the Senate and he would have to explain to them why he's not giving this intelligence to Israel. So then the Zionists there in the Senate could go tell Israel what the intelligence was anyway. I mean, this is beyond belief to look at what has happened. People have, for the longest time, talked in a derisive term about ZOG, right? Zionist occupied government. There is no question that is what the situation is. That is not hyperbole. That is not anti-Semitism. It is reality to talk about a Zionist occupied government. That is where we are right now.
And let's make this 1,000% clear. Zionism is a made-up political movement by some craphead Theodor Herzl back in the late 1800s, 1890s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Totally made up political movement. Nothing to do with religion.
Yep.
It's not a religion. And again, I believe in any religion you want. Don't tell me I have to believe in your religion. All right?
Yep.
But again, what's your favorite crusade? This stuff has been going on for centuries.
And originally, the Zionists were not even necessarily looking at the Holy Land, what they called the Holy Land. They were looking at other places out there, right? Yeah. Then they fixed on it and they added religion to it. Yeah. But they just wanted to have a place where they could control, just like Jared Kushner's looking at that island in Albania, right? They got to find some kind of a religious hook to bring into that, because he's getting a lot of resistance for that. So he's going to have to find some way to make a case for it out of the Old Testament, I guess.
Yeah. Chapter 6, Section 8. Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah, he's going to be Section 8. He ought to be driven out for being nuts, like Corporal Klinger. So, yeah, it's...
Zionists are made up. Oh, remember little genocide Joe Biden? I'm a proud Zionist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you think that this is all going to fall apart, that it's not going to go forward. And, of course, when I was talking about this, I said, you know, the gun that was being held to Trump's head really was the reality of what's going on with the oil stuff. He can go out there and make these pronouncements about, oh, we got a deal, or we don't have a deal. We got a deal, we don't have a deal. He can manipulate the markets, and he can make money off of the manipulations and so forth. And the Wall Street investors will hang on every word that he has to say. They'll trade on every word that he has to say. But meanwhile, the reality from these oil company executives, Exxon and others, are saying, you know, a few weeks ago, you had the two top guys at Exxon come out and say, you know, we've only got 2 to 3 weeks of oil before. You know, we've been able to pad this with the oil that was on the water already, right? That's being in transit. We've been able to pad it with that, with strategic oil reserves and things like that. But we're looking at a tank bottom that's going to be hitting in about 2 to 3 weeks. And then within a couple of weeks of that, we're going to see a massive spike of oil prices that are going to happen. That's the reality. The reality is that they've been padding this with reserves, and there's a lot of inertia when you shut down the supply chain. You know, you can cut it off at one end, but there's still stuff that's on the conveyor belt, essentially. And what they're saying is we are dealing with the reality of this as a producer, a refiner, and we know that that gravy train's about to end, and we're going to hit this wall. And so that's the question. What do you think is going to happen then? If this agreement doesn't go through, they don't open up the strait, what's going to happen with that wall when they get up to even regular gas, $6 a gallon? Of course, diesel is more expensive, and jet fuel is even more expensive than that.
I think when I say there won't be an agreement, there'll be a fake agreement for a while. Trump will do everything he can to bring down oil prices during the summer when people are traveling. Mm-hmm. You got the midterm elections coming up. He's going to do everything in his power to keep a majority in the House and Senate so he could do what he wants to do. Mm-hmm. And among the things, you got this guy, Kevin Wash, the new Fed head, another rich kid. What family did he marry into? That big
Estee Lauder, yeah. Estee Lauder, yeah. The guy, his father-in-law is head of the World Jewish Council, and he's out there saying, "We got to put people in jail if we don't like what they have to say."
Yeah. America, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Again, the United Zionist State of America. Mm-hmm. So going back, he's a Trump boy. Before this talk about a peace deal, the bet on the street was that they were going to raise interest rates because inflation is going up so high. Mm-hmm. Now they say they're not going to. Mm-hmm. Number two, Trump will do everything he can to juice the economy up before the election, which means that they'll probably lower interest rates to juice up the economy before the election. Mm-hmm. That's going to bring down the dollar and bring up gold prices. Mm-hmm. And again, gold prices went down because this war has cost the whole world.
Yep.
And governments, countries, debt levels were going way up. Their currencies are going way down. They had to sell gold to cover their losses. Mm-hmm. This is temporary. Mm-hmm. So we're still bullish on. I would have never thought gold would have gone down as much as it has, by the way. But again, only look at the data and why it's happening. Mm-hmm. Because now you're seeing more. There's just an article. Let me see if I can find it here about one of the.
Well, I would have never thought that Wall Street would keep on reacting to all these pronouncements from Trump when they're obviously detached from reality, you know. But they're trading on this, and right now it seems like there's this, as Greenspan said, irrational exuberance that is out there. I think it was Greenspan who said that. At some point, there's going to be a tip. You talked about how we're going to have dragflation. Once the mindset flips from this irrational optimism, it'll flip to an irrational pessimism. And then no matter how good the news is, they're still going to be pessimistic about it.
Yeah, these are two articles. One on the 16th and one today. Singapore bolsters plans to become Asia gold hub.
Mm-hmm.
Central banks repatriate gold.
Yeah.
All right. They're pulling gold out of the United States and London, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
They want it in their own country.
That's right.
This is bullish on gold.
And it's not only are they worried about where the gold is being held, they want to have it where they can, they want to have it nearby, which is basically what all of us as individuals ought to have. We ought to have the stuff nearby in a trusted place, not, distant from us. But
Nope.
they're also talking about the vast majority of central banks. I have the figures here somewhere. See if I can find it. But the vast majority of them are planning to increase their holdings in gold. They're planning to stay about the same in terms of the euro and the Chinese currency. They're going to keep about the same amount of that, but they're going to go down on the dollar. And so they're accumulating gold at the expense of holding U.S. dollars. And that's a trend that we have seen before. That's going to continue, and then they want to hold that gold closer to them, not, as you pointed out, in New York or London.
That's right.
Yeah.
And talking about the impact of the war, this is from the Financial Times yesterday. Economic fallout from war to unfold over years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. When we look at this,
listen how they wrote this. It was supposed to be a campaign of shock and awe that began when the United States and Israel struck Iran on February 28th. But Iran, having fired thousands of missiles and drones across the Middle East, fought to a stalemate. Thousands have been killed, mostly in Iran and Lebanon, while the economic shockwaves of the conflict, war, and the disruption of shipping channels through the Strait of Hormuz has spread far beyond the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes on and on and on, saying how this is costing so much. This one guy said, Research Institute Rystad Energy estimated it would require $58 billion to fix Gulf energy infrastructure damaged and destroyed between February and early April.
Mm. Wow.
So this is serious.
Yeah.
And it's going to get worse. I don't see this ending.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeffrey Tucker at Brownstone had an article where he was talking about the fact if you look at the economic figures, we have had negative growth since Trump shot us in the head with his fake pandemic 6 years ago. We still haven't recovered from that economically. And so this is going to be something that's going to be very similar to that. You and I lived through the 1973 OPEC oil embargo, and that was another consequence of our closest ally, Israel. And you got Jonathan Pollard, the massive traitor to America. He was born as an American, but he betrayed us not just to Israel, but to other countries as well. He was not a principled person by any means. And he's boasting about the fact that Israel blackmailed the U.S. into aiding them in the 1973 war by threatening to nuke Egypt. And he boasts about that. He's done that on multiple podcasts that he's been on. And the consequences of that were the OPEC oil embargo that was directed only against America. And yet, even though it was only against America and it was only 15% of our oil supply, it had global consequences that went on for like another decade. This is something that is not 15% of our, it's 20% of the world's oil supply. And this is something that is not the OPEC oil embargo, it's the Trump oil embargo. And that Trump oil embargo is going to have long-term consequences, as you just pointed out. And
the other thing,
go ahead.
The other thing is also that this is very different than 1973. The United States oil supply, we're the biggest in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
But thanks to the Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner, Barack Obama, they did away with the law that prohibited the United States energy companies from exporting our oil. It was you weren't allowed to export oil before.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't happen in 2016. So if because they say this is the land, the oil's in the land of our country. It's the American people's oil as well. All right, you're making the money on it, fine. But it's also, it's America.
Right. And the Chevron CEO has even said that. Right? He didn't say Obama cleared that away for us, but somebody said, "Well, we got a lot of oil here, don't we?" He goes, "Yeah, but it's a global market." That's what he said, and they didn't explore that with him at all. But that's what he was talking about. In fact, we can, we're not going to. This oil that's here in America isn't going to stay in America, right?
No, but that's what the law was. It has to stay in America. And the Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner, a lousy, lying little piece of crap like the rest of them, who lied his way into office as a peace candidate. Hey, as soon as he got in, the Afghan troop surge. Oh, you remember that? Oh, yeah. I want that guy Gaddafi out of there. Oh, yeah, that guy. He's the one that did. I want that guy Assad out of there. Yeah. Quote, in the book Double Down, I'm really good at killing people.
Yeah.
That Obama. He's the one that did it. So now I'm mentioning this because if we weren't exporting the oil price, the gasoline prices and energy prices here would be a lot lower.
But there isn't much that they can do really with the interest rate manipulations because we owe so much money now. We didn't have that kind of a debt when this all happened in 1973. So the Fed had some opportunity, some wiggle room to manipulate things with the interest rates. And of course, you had Paul Volcker, who took them up. I think he got up to 20% interest rates to get inflation under control. And as you pointed out many times, when they talk and say, well, okay, they're like 2 or 3%. We're going to go up by 1/4% on the interest rates. As you pointed out, that's absolutely nothing. That's not going to make any change in anything. It is so far below the rate of inflation, it's going to have absolutely no effect on that. And they don't have the ability to really raise them higher because one of the reasons I think that Trump, I want to know what you think about this, but I think Trump is seriously afraid of the fact that if they take interest rates high, he's not going to be able to make the interest rate payments. And they don't want to have a situation where they default on this kind of stuff. And so, the interest rate payments are starting to approach the level of the budget of the Pentagon. That's how big the interest rate payments are on $40 trillion. And we're going to be at $40 trillion by the time the summer is finished. At the rate that they're accumulating it, maybe faster. But certainly by September, we'll be at $40 trillion. And the interest rate on it, that's why he's so sensitive to all this stuff, and he obsesses about it. Because he knows that if they raise the interest rates, that raises the amount that he's got to pay interest on the debt. And it's a tremendous rate that's there. So I think you're right. I think, Israel's going to keep this from happening. And they've got all the guns trained on him on massive media. I mean, a lot of people don't like Trump, don't like the war, so they're criticizing him for this. And I got to guard myself against that because I would like to see peace go through, but certainly there's people going to criticize him because they hated his war or they hate Trump or whatever. But then the people who have been his supporters now, they're owned by Israel. So they're hitting him for all this stuff. So he's going to take massive fire for all this stuff, but they will still kind of dither around, wiggle around and manipulate things for another 60 days. That's why this memorandum of understanding, I think, is setting up for 60 days. So say, yeah, we're still working on it. And they buy themselves time through the summer for 60 days. And then at the end of that, they'll say, yeah, there's nothing there. And they'll start the war again.
And going back to interest rates, again, before this war, the bet was that they would, before this so-called peace deal, the bet on the street was that interest rates were going to go up in the United States because of inflation. And now with this guy Warsh in there, now they're going to, tomorrow we'll find out, of course, or today, is it today or tomorrow anyway, that they're going to keep interest rates where they are. Trump, I believe, will push Warsh to lower interest rates to juice up the economy before the midterm elections. And that'll bring inflation higher. It'll also bring gold prices higher because the dollar is going to go down more. So, and you mentioned about the debt level, we said up to 43 trillion. When you look at the real numbers, according to Fortune magazine and others, it's about 120 trillion when you put in Social Security and other government debt.
Yeah. They're already talking about Social Security. Oh, and they can't afford Social Security in 7 years, right?
Yep.
Already starting to talk about that. Yeah. Well, there's another aspect to this, Gerald, and that was on Mises.org. They were talking about, and of course, as Austrian economists, they're very keen on the fact that inflation is coming from monetization, from printing money. Of course, there's price inflation that we have all lived through the 1973 embargo, and you see it now in the price of fuel and food and things like that. But fundamental inflation is really coming from a growth in the monetary supply. And they point out the monetary supply growth rose year over year in April, making it the 6th month in a row of accelerating growth of the money supply and rising to the largest growth rate in 49 months. In spite of repeated claims from the Federal Reserve that monetary policy is at least moderately restrictive, there's no sign of any slowing in the growth of the money supply. Moreover, overall fragility of the economy suggests the Fed will continue to face political pressure toward easing monetary conditions, likely to ensure that we'll see no real effort at the Fed toward monetary tightening. So when you look at this, the fact that they're growing the monetary side, that's really kind of a surreptitious way of doing this. Everybody looks at the interest rates, and the markets respond to changes in the interest rates. The bond markets, the stock markets, the gold markets, all of them respond to the interest rate changes. And so that's a very important thing. But underneath all this stuff, they're printing money like crazy. And that is going to be the basis of inflation. And Trump and the Federal Reserve can do this under the radar without anybody noticing it, except Mises. You have some economic journals that'll notice this and talk about it, but the mainstream media is not going to talk about the money supply.
Again, let's go back to the COVID war. That's exactly what they did. That's why we had that inflation. Mm-hmm. Get back in your house. You can't go to work. Mm-hmm. Close down your business. But here's free money, all right?
Mm-hmm.
All right? They jacked up remember the housing boom that took off?
Oh, yeah. That's right.
All right? All the fake money.
Yeah.
And that's what as we said, they printed trillions of dollars of fake money backed by nothing and printed on nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's totally forgotten.
Well, the other thing is
what they're talking about.
Yeah, the other thing is that besides going, the largest growth rate in 49 months, it is accelerating, and they're rapidly accelerating it year over year, month over month, and they've got the stats here. It's been growth rate has been positive for 21 months in a row, and April's growth rate was the highest since March of 2022. So this is all happening under the radar, and this is the way that they create inflation. Inflation is necessary for them because that's the way that he's going to pay off the debt. They're going to monetize it. They're going to pay it back with cheaper dollars that they're just printing all the time. And this goes back to what Trump was doing in 2020, massively increasing the money supply. And they're doing the same thing again now. Regardless of what happens with the interest rates that everybody's watching, this growth in the monetary supply underneath it is what's going to create real inflation. And that's why I'm real bullish still on gold, because all the stuff that has made gold go high in terms of central bank purchasing, that's going to go up. In terms of inflation, that's going to go up. And right now, I think it's really kind of a buying opportunity, really, kind of a pause.
No, I would not have thought gold would have gone down as much as it did, just to be clear, because usually a safe haven asset. Mm-hmm. But again, banks and countries had to start selling their gold to cover their debt losses because of the war.
Yeah, it had to use it as a safe haven asset. Yeah, they used it for the purpose that people accumulate it for. Absolutely.
But I believe that, I still see gold, silver. And again, I've been, here's my book, Trend Tracking, a lot better than Megatrends, Time Magazine. I started buying gold during the Iran conflict in 1978. And I think it was like $166 an ounce. What is that, 4,300 and something now, right? So I tell people, I don't tell you what to do, but as I see it, particularly younger people, you buy it and you put it away. Mm-hmm. You buy it and you put it away. 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 So when you get to be an older cat or a kitten, you got the dough. Because it's going to go way up over those 30, 40 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, there's an interesting article from Reuters, and they were talking about people melting down luxury watches. because of the gold content in it. And this is, even though the price of gold has come off of that high of over $5,000 down to just over $4,000, people are still, the gold and the watches is so much more valuable than the fact that these were, precision watches or whatever, and luxury watches that celebrities would buy and flash around and all that kind of stuff. People are literally melting these things down because they said, if I were to sell this at an auction, versus melting down the gold and just selling the gold or the silver that's in it, I make $1,000 more tgoing I would selling it at an auction. So unless it's something that was owned by George Clooney or something, right? You're going to make more if you still make more even at this price level. You're going to make more than what the watch costs. That's kind of an interesting data point because that Rolex bought this gold and silver way back, a couple of years ago at least, right? They bought it when it was very cheap, like you're talking about, going back and getting gold when it's so much cheaper a few years ago.
Well, we had one of our top trends for 2024 was a golden year for gold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Gold back then was selling for about $1,850 an ounce.
Yeah, man. Those are good old days, right?
Yeah, and then again, now you hit almost 5,600 at one time. So no, we're very bullish on it. The global economy is going down. Gold is number one safe haven. You just saw the data. Again, it's in your trends journal.
Mm-hmm.
The Eurozone's in a recession.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The UK, negative GDP growth last quarter. I'm sorry. They're not in a recession. Both had negative GDP growth in the last quarter. 2 quarters makes it official recession.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's going to be dragflation.
Mm-hmm.
Economies are going to go down. Inflation is going to go up. And governments are going to do everything they can to prop up the economies, which means more inflation, fake money. More fake money, the higher gold prices go up. And by the way, remember Trump said last February, we're going to go into Fort Knox to see how much gold they got.
Oh, yeah, right.
Remember that one?
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be like Al Capone's vault when and Geraldo Rivera went in Al Capone's vault because he was going to be there. Finally going to go into it all these years. And there was nothing there. That's probably what they'd find at Fort Knox as well.
But remember, they said they were going to go there.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
They haven't gone.
Yeah, that's right.
So I believe that, matter of fact, what's his name? Let's see if I have this article here in this week's Trends Journal about Musk saying they're going to go in there again. But if they do go in, they're going to come out with the thing that we got more gold than we ever thought we had.
Mm.
And we just raised the price of gold, and that'll cover our losses.
Yeah.
They'll make something like that as well.
Mm.
But I don't know. But I'm just saying anything goes.
How do we know, right? Because they lie about everything.
They lie about everything.
When I started talking about this memorandum of understanding, Gerald, I said I've got a friend who his parents were in Panama, Americans, when he was born. So he has a citizenship both places. And he's stayed in contact with people down there in Panama, and he spends a good amount of time a year down there as well. And when they came up with this agreement about ownership of the Panama Canal and other things that were happening there, Trump was threatening them over that. He put up a memorandum of understanding. They put up a memorandum of understanding in Spanish, and they noticed when the same MOU went up in Washington that it said completely different things. And so the local paper there called them out on it. And when they did that, there was no response from the American government. They just took that down so people couldn't see it. I mean, they lie about everything.
Everything.
They? Yeah.
It's
just amazing.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
I just did a podcast with Judge Napolitano talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not a republic anymore. It's an empire.
Yeah. A regime. Yeah, a regime.
Yeah.
People, I use that term all the time now because an administration is somebody that is exercising stewardship within the responsibility to obey the Constitution, right? That's not this group of people. This is a regime that thumbs its nose at the law where the guy who is in charge of it says, I can do whatever I want. That's a regime. That's not an administration. They're not administering anything except a lot of lies.
What Trump just said at the Geneva meeting, I'm the boss.
Yeah.
I'm the boss.
Yeah.
All you people out there, you're nobody, all right? I'm the boss. You do what I tell you to do. You do what I tell you to do.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a crime lord. That's what he really is.
Yeah.
It's,
Well said.
yeah.
So anyway, that's where we see this going. And again, out of the news, by the way, is what's going on with the Ukraine war.
Mm-hmm.
And that just keeps Trump said he's going to fix that one now too. You're like, hey, you elect me, I'm gonna end that war in 24 hours, all right?
That's
all right.
right.
Hey, now that I'm elected, I'm gonna end that war before I get inaugurated, all right? How does he get away with this stuff?
Well, next he's going to tell us that he actually ended it, but then they started it again, right? Because that's kind of the game they're playing with this. You know, you had in Congress, you had some people who were saying, and a lot of them were doing it simply for partisan political purposes, right? Because we know the Democrats probably do the same thing. But, they said, wait a minute, you violated the law by... you violated the Constitution by not having a declaration, and you even violated our own law of the War Powers Act, where you're supposed to get our authority within 60 days. And I said, oh, it stopped. We got a ceasefire. Yep. And then you had these Democrats who, made a case to them and said, well, you say that you've had a ceasefire, but both sides have continued to fire. So it's still a war. It's still going on. I mean, it's just in name only you say you've stopped this. And so they play those kind of semantics with stuff, and it's just a flat out lie.
Yeah, yesterday, Israeli drone kills 4 in South Lebanon, 2 in Gaza. Today, as I said, several injured in Israeli strikes in southern Lebanon.
Yeah.
According to Google it up, it says that Israel violated the November 2024 ceasefire agreement with Lebanon over 10,000 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's what I said. We've adopted their tactics, their lack of ethics, their disregard for morality and the law. We are acting exactly the same way as they have taken over our politicians, and they control the strings. They tell the politicians do what they want. And, of course, what Israel wants is what we see Israel doing. And so now they've got America operating like that without any regard for the law or morality.
The murder that Israel is committing, I got to write about this stuff. You have no idea how sad I get.
Yeah.
I got to read all this stuff. There's an article in this week's Trends Journal in the Israel War section. Palestinian families forced to live among rats in destroyed Gaza. You read about what 70% of it is now taken over by Israel. They bombed the place into ruin. They've driven out over 1 million people out of Lebanon.
And they're targeting civilians. They're targeting civilians.
250,000 people have nowhere. Their homes have been blown to destroyed, bombed to ruin. Could you imagine? How do they get away with this stuff?
I know. And how do we get away with it?
How do they get away with this? And when you come out against it, you're an anti-Semite. Yeah, shove it. Don't want to hear it, Jack.
Yeah.
They're not Semites, by the way. They're Eastern European. Semites are from the Mesopotamia region. But what's his name? Milikowski? Oh, no, it's Netanyahu. I forgot. Yeah. Ben Gurion, oh yeah, he changed his name too. They're all Eastern Europeans running the show.
Yep.
They're not Semites.
And I just read the headline of an op-ed piece on, it wasn't the Jerusalem Post or Haaretz, but it was another one, I think it might have been Ynet or something. And the op-ed piece said, well, if you hate a different group because of their ethnic thing, you mistreat them, and that is racism, and it's deplorable. But if you say that Jews are the same as everybody else, that's anti-Semitism. That was the headline. That was the headline of the article.
Yeah.
So it is antithetical to everything this country was founded on. I mean, the fundamental Christian principle that this country was founded on was that we are created by God and all men are created equal. And that is the basis of our rights. They deny that people are equal to them. They're the master race. And so it is chosen. Yeah, it's anti-Christian.
They're the chosen people. I'm just a little guinea from the Bronx. What's wrong with you?
That's right. Everything about this, ethnic-based superiority, which is the basis of Zionism, it is a racist entity from the very beginning. But that kind of inherent racism This kind of, it is a repudiation of Christianity. It's a repudiation of what the entire New Testament is about. The New Testament says there's no difference between God of men and women, or people who are slave or free, or people who are Jew or Gentile, right? That's what Christianity says. The current Judaism denies all of that. Zionism denies all of that. It's not just against Jesus as Messiah. It is against the fundamental foundations of Christianity. And it's hard to get Christians to understand that. I mean, Trump's support has dropped. It's one of the stories that I had here. About 80 some odd percent of evangelicals voted for the guy in 2024. Go figure. But it dropped from there. By the time we were a year ago, it was down to 60% support. And now it is down to below 50%. And so finally, some of them are starting to catch on as to the criminality of all this and the immorality of what he is doing. But it's hard to say, when you look at this, to read this. Now, they talked to some of the people, and some of the people they talked to, one person, and you know how it is. It's hard to say when they go in and they do a poll, but then they will back it up with an interview of one particular person that they have selected or whatever. Well, the one person that they had that had changed on Trump, they did it over the issues of the war and the murder of civilians and that type of thing, for which I think is a valid reason. But to oppose that. But then the other person I talked to said, well, I can make a case for preemptive strikes from the Bible. It's like, no, you can't. There's no way that you can make a case for that. And then they start going in, and then God gave this land to the people. And he said, that's what it is. You're not coming to this conclusion from what you read from the Bible. You're not coming to this conclusion for what Christ taught. You're coming to this conclusion for what the Zionists have told you, the Bible says. Read it for yourself. And then, the person said, and then I got upset with them. Another person said, I got upset with them because he reduced our entitlement program for something that their daughter had or something. And it's like, there it is. It's about the money, isn't it? It comes back to that. I'm entitled to this money. And if he doesn't give me it, then I don't support him. And they don't care about the moral issues, right? And that's where most Americans are. They really don't care. It's just the economy. But the economy is really going to bite him on this stuff.
I tell you, he's going to do everything he can to prop up the economy before the elections.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He'll do everything he can.
Yeah.
He's done it before, he'll do it again.
Yeah.
So that's what we see. By the way, talking about Zionism, U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, spoke this yesterday. Did you read that?
No, I didn't.
Do you know that one?
No. What's he saying now?
At the opening of the International Conference of Israeli Heritage in Judea and Samaria, held in Herodion, Herodion National Park, and emphasized the importance of Israel, you ready? And Jewish heritage for the United States. This is his quote. It is your heritage without a doubt. It is also the heritage of the United States. Without Israel, without the Jewish foundation, there would not be an America.
Yeah, I've heard him say that kind of nonsense. He keeps saying that that Judaism is the foundation of America, not Christianity. And he keeps saying that Judaism is the foundation of Christianity. It's like, absolutely not. They're antithetical.
No, you got it
there's
wrong.
no racism in Christianity, not at all.
Now, here's what he says. We own our very existence. we owe our very existence to what happened in this land to Israel.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, if you look at it, just think about the fact, would Israel ever have a document that we are celebrating the 250th anniversary of this year? Would they ever have a document that says all men are created equal? They absolutely deny that. They are the master race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
it's just amazing.
We wrote about in the Trends Journal 100 times the Balfour Declaration that they invented in 1917 for the Rothschilds. His Majesty's government declares the land in Palestine will be settled by the Jewish people, and we will use our best endeavors to achieve this objective.
Yeah.
Rothschild Group went to that. That's who the letter went to from the Balfour.
Well, it's very easy to debunk this stuff if you look at history. If you look at the Bible, it's easy to debunk it. But if you just look at the principles and what they're doing right now, Right? You can debunk them ethnically, right? And so you can debunk all these different things that they have done there, whether it's their ethnic claims or whether it's their biblical claims or historical claims. None of that carries any weight. But the bottom line is you only have to look at what they're doing right now, and it's end of story. There's no way to support that. And the only thing that Huckabee is right about is that modern America really is built not on the foundations of the Declaration of Independence, not on the Christian principles of the Declaration of Independence. Modern America that he represents is based on the attitudes and the immorality of Judaism that you see there. That's what it's really based on right now, because we're acting just like that. We assassinate people. We violate our agreements with them. We attack them while we're negotiating with them. I mean, that is their values. That's not the values of the founders of this country. And the entangling alliances. I mean, can you imagine George Washington spinning in his grave, seeing the merger of U.S. and Israeli military? And that doesn't make any sense with any country. To do that with military, to do that with the intelligence agencies.
By the way, let's go back to Obama.
Yeah.
Go back to Obama. He's the one that started giving Israel $3.8 billion of our money every year. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it's been going on forever. There's just another element of it.
Yep. It's just going under radar with it, really.
The cover of this week's Trends Journal magazine. Eisenhower. Any man who wants to be president is either an egomaniac or crazy.
Or both.
And then we have Trump. His quote, "I really have a big ego." So we got big ego Trump, a maniac, and by his deeds, he's taco crazy.
That's right. Well, I've been saying for a long time.
According to Eisenhower, we have an egomaniac that's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I've been saying for the longest time, he doesn't do economics, he does egonomics. He doesn't do geopolitics, he does ego politics.
Perfect. Egomaniac. Egomaniac.
Yeah, I guess when he gets to the G7, they put out a message, the ego has landed, right?
No, it's terrible. Again, it's heartbreaking to see what our money and our support is doing to slaughter the Palestinian and Lebanese people. Yeah. Right in front of everybody's eyes and nobody cares. Hey, how about the Knicks? That's the big news, by the way.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, the curse
like this, because they won, everything's going to change in New York now. Like, grow up. What are you talking about?
What I saw was, the curse of Trump, right? He was the one who caused them to lose. It's like, yeah, there is a curse of Trump. And it's a lot worse than one team losing a game. We're losing the entire country, and we've lost the respect of the entire world, and rightfully so, for having somebody like that in power and allowing them to remain in power. That's the insanity of all this. Well, we're just about out of time. Before we run out of time, I want to remind people that you can save 10% off of Gerald's wonderful Trends Journal. Again, a comprehensive... Excuse me, I had to sneeze there. It's a comprehensive survey of what's really happening here, the long-term trends. Nobody can predict accurately what the price of anything is going to be the next day or so, but we can look at these trends and we can see what's going to be happening with the economy. And Gerald has been spot on. You've been a regular guest of mine for a long time, going back to when my show started back in 2017. So nearly a decade now. Wow. We've been talking like every couple of weeks. And Gerald has been spot on with all this stuff. And I really do appreciate you coming on and sharing that with my audience. It's very valuable, what you have to say. And I appreciate your dedication to peace. I wish we had more Christians who are dedicated to peace. It's just amazing. But thank you so much, Gerald. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And thank you for all that you do. I really enjoy being on with you, and you're one of a kind. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Oh, that's really kind. Thank you. And thank you, folks, for supporting the program, and thank you for tuning in. Have a good day. We will see you tomorrow. Thank you, Gerald. The Common Man. They created Common Core to dumb down our children. They created Common Pass to track and control us. Their Commons Project to make sure the commoners own nothing. And the communist future. They see the common man as simple, unsophisticated, ordinary. But each of us has worth and dignity created in the image of God. That is what we have in common. That is what they want to take away. Their most powerful weapons are isolation, deception, intimidation. They desire to know everything about us while they hide everything from us. It's time to turn that around and expose what they want to hide. Please share the information and links you'll find at thedavidknightshow.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. If you can't support us financially, please keep us in your prayers. thedavidknightshow.com.